Hello and welcome back once again to the Single Malt Review, as we veer off topic once again, as we are wont to do, to look at another rum, which you may not have even seen, so diminutive as it is.
It's true, there's not a lot of good news come out of Venezuela these days. What is still coming out of that country, though, is rum. Diplomático being one of the most established and famous of Venezuelan rum exports.
Yes, indeed. Diplomático becoming maybe ever more a ironic term out of Venezuela. Still the rum flows. Although this is courtesy of Ron Antiguo, so not particularly versed. Goodness me, you said it was going to be a cork.
It's an old style apothecary bottle.
Ladies
little cork.
and gentlemen, please witness the daintiest little cork ever to see the light of day. I wouldn't have thought they would be bothered with that.
No,
but
as the son of a pharmacist, I have seen many old apothecary bottles from centuries past, and this is the standard.
agreed. So we can say no expense spared with the Diplomatico's Venezuelan rum. Now, I'm led to believe this is, in an interesting turn, rum up to 12 years old.
Yes,
so,
this is in fact the Diplomático Reserva Exclusiva, which is the 12-year-old expression.
So up to 12 years old, that's a bit of an inverse of our usual Scotch whisky regulations, which is not less than. So, oh well, I guess it is more or less the other side of the
Where
world.
did you find that? I'm curious where you sourced that. I understood it to be...
I had to crawl the rum forums for that one, as one often does, to find hard info on popular brands. But yes, I am led to believe that this is a 12-year-old minus.
Right.
Rather than a 12-year-old plus, but we'll have to see what we
not
can...
a 12-year-old Solera rum, but something else entirely.
Well, that wasn't necessarily stipulated. I think this probably is Solera, but even then there is questions unanswered. Rum is just a bit of a bugger like that. It's a bloody dark rum.
It is very dark,
that much.
I don't believe Venezuela is subject to the legal restrictions on additives, colours and so forth, which can go into rum.
I am sadly not particularly fluent in the Venezuelan rum legislature outside of the Guatemalan ones and the what was that we had recently?
Guyana.
Guyana and Trinidad. Fairly familiar with those because we've tasted those more recently. Venezuela. Anybody's guess, so feel free to fill us in on the comments. So, this is pretty clearly a dark rum here. Yes. Whether that is coloured or not, we have not been informed by the bottle, but I'll say this much, it's looking pretty bloody dark. Yes. So, given the very, very few unmodified cask strength rums we've had recently, I'd be a little bit suspicious about this one. Yeah. This one is very, very dark. But anyway, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. On the nose.
The nose is sweet, but rather drier than you'd expect. Usually, with a rum this dark, often it's been so heavily sweetened it smells of molasses, of demerara sugar, of vanilla essence. It does not in this case.
Well, I think the primary note is still cane in there. Not so much molasses, but cane.
Yeah.
It's almost a slightly metallic, steely nose there. There's a minerality to that one, which is rather pleasing. Yeah, it serves to dry it out a little bit. Almost a bit of, and this maybe dates myself somewhat. There's a bit of tin spoon to that one on the nose.
Okay, I don't have a point of reference for that, but I will take that as value.
I doubt it will transfer through to the palate, so it's probably going to be lost. But yeah, that slightly electrolytic quality that some people will be familiar with, but increasingly little, I suspect.
The body seems not light, but also not weighty and syrupy, so I'm hoping this won't be too abominably sugared or out to heck.
Insofar as I am familiar with Diplomatico as a brand, they are, at least in terms of their facing, not in for that sort of thing.
Great.
They are not supposed to be something which completely douses their rum, although that said, I'm looking at where a couple of droplets have dried just on the top of the bottle, and there is a distinct residue. So maybe there's a little bit in there. We'll just have to see.
Oh, let's find out.
I'm going to go right out there and say, this is sweetened. This is conspicuously sugary. That's actually pretty surprising.
Despite that, there is a dry sharpness to it as well. In contrast to that, there is some of that underlying rum character exploding through. Yeah, it's got a decent heft, a decent weight, despite the comparatively modest ABV on it.
I am having a lot of trouble getting past the sweetness on that. It is so... There's a brazen quality to the sweetness there. Was I to get my portable titration kit out, which I am, because that way lies madness, I'm not going to do. For reference, we could not find this on the Fat Rum Pirates score sheet, which is a shame, although that hasn't been updated for many, many years, so maybe can be excused there. If anyone does have a more up-to-date one, I've asked this in the past, please link it up in the comments, because it would do us a great deal of good to be able to have some hard science on these rums.
As we record this, we're tracing this one right after we tasted the El Ron Prohibido, the PX cask matured Mexican rum, which I found implausibly sweet and syrupy.
That was all the way sweet.
This is comparatively lighter and drier in a lot of ways, which I'm enjoying more. Sure, there's still a degree of sweetness here, which suggests some tomfoolery, some post-facto addition of molasses and sugars and whatever else. However, there is more actual rumminess going on here, I believe.
There certainly is. I think... One moment. I think... Thoughts on this one is... There is a much more complex, much deeper... much more flavoursome rum at the core of this one, which makes it, if anything, that much sadder that the sugar treatment has been applied to this one, because I think the underlying rum is so much of a better prospect. I feel there is a really good rum struggling to get out here, and it almost makes it. There is layers here. There's tremendous ginger. There's almost a little bit of sort of we call it an Anzac biscuit, but it's like a sugar, like a golden syrup baked biscuit kind of a thing.
Know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I do believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe I have seen Kill Devil rums which use a single cask of Venezuelan rum. So it's possible the actual raw material.
We may be able to get to the truth of it eventually, and I'll bet we'll see a whole lot more, because getting through the fug of sweetness here is just kind of taxing. It's just so. It really has been heaped on. I think this is surprisingly sugar modified. I mean I've heard tell Diplomático is quite highly regarded as a fine rum. To see the amount of sugar treatment that seems to be coming through is a bit of a surprise here. But maybe that just goes to show how much of an industry standard it really is these days with modern rums. I don't know.
Reserva Especial is the sort of bog standard workhorse Diplomático rum. It is the entry level, the most abundant, most affordable. They do have, I believe, a much broader range with all degrees of exclusivity and probably right up to age statement.
I have seen single cask Diplomático as well, and that could be a completely different insight into the true nature of the rum. But sadly, this just isn't it for me. It's a rum that comes so close. It's just reaching, but can't get through that gluggy layer of sugar. That's right up on top of its flavour profile, and it is a bit sad, a bit depressing to see. Its scores for this one, I mean, it's in every way an enjoyable rum. Not to say that this rum is, tip it out, screw your nose up bad. It's just a rum that has been drummed down to the rest of them. The sickle of homogeneity has come across and chopped it off
They've made compromises to bring in line with what the consumer expects.
Yeah, and this is maybe sadder than it would otherwise be, because Diplomatico makes, as far as I've been led to believe, very, very good rum. So to see it given this treatment and hamstrung to that effect is, it's pretty bogus, really. So I mean, scores for this one, there's probably a 79 from me. It's a sad 79.
Oh.
It's a. I mean, the other one we tasted, was the one that leaned into its sugariness. It wasn't a fine rum by any means, but at least it kind of owned where it ended up. This one doesn't. It just ends up there anyway, which makes it, for me at least, that much more depressing to kind of find yourself in the same old rum hole that you do. That's an interesting turn of phrase, but hey, heard it here first. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that one? It's a tricky.
While it has been, I believe, heavily sweetened, there is still enough intrinsic rum character in there as well. A lot of flavour, a lot of individuality, some uniqueness, and a bit of that age too. It is enjoyable, it's approachable, it's not devoid of complexity and character, and I would give it 76.
Yeah, it's... All I want from a rum like this is just remove the veil of that sugar. Lift the veil of sucrose and just let us see what's underneath. Let us see what's behind the curtain.
Yeah, let the spirit express itself.
Because this is... I feel there is such a good rum here fighting to get out. If we were to try this at... Let's completely lose our minds here and say 46%, not unattainable, unchill filtered, uncoloured, no bloody sugar added. This could be flip the table, take my shirt off, good. You know, it could be really tremendous, because the very, very few rums we've tried that have had that treatment have been almost universally exceptional. Almost without fail. That's probably somewhat inflated by the fact that they have themselves been curated by Douglas Lang, so that they've already passed their eye of quality control over them. We've really only been exposed to the best through their Kill Devil range. But even that said, we haven't been disappointed. They've just been so exciting, so good. I really feel that there is and it may be appropriate for the regions in which they're made, there's a rum revolution coming. I can feel it simmering. The demands of the rum drinkers are beginning to change. As Scotch becomes increasingly more expensive, the refined palates of the Scotch whisky drinkers are looking further afield, and their critical eye, because no one is more critical than Scotch drinkers. No one is more geeky, no one is more demanding, no one is more raise their hand to ask a question than us Scotch whisky aficionados. And when that evil eye is turned on rum, I think first its weaknesses are being laid bare, which is what's happening now. And I think the next thing to happen, and the thing I really hope happens, is that it will be repackaged as an honest, more raw spirit.
We've seen that happen through the growth of the gin bars in the hipster quarters of London, Portland and so on, and we are now seeing rum bars take off in a similar fashion. We even have a burgeoning rum scene here in our hometown. There's a great rum bar which I intend to visit more in future. And so, rum being not just an additive for mixers or just a generic product, but actually a range of distinct, unique experiences in their own right. We're seeing that happen, and hopefully we'll see more of it, and that will encourage a return to a more honest, straight-up single-source spirit, matured and delivered to the market as it were, God intended.
Yeah. Now, I think that's, viva la rum, I think. It's really is going to be the drinkers that make the change. Demand better in your rums, demand honesty in your rums. And if you don't get them, then buy something else until you do. Yeah. And, definitely seek out the offerings that exist. They are not, I'm not going to say they're monumentally affordable, because they're not, because the supply/demand, their equation just doesn't work out, so they can more or less charge what they want. And the true rum drinkers will seek them out, as we are prone to do over the years. But I think it's still coming. The guerrillas are crouching in the bushes. sliding the ammunition to the guns. The rum revolution is coming, but we will see. We'll be on the forefront. We can tell you that. We will be the Che Guevaras of the rum tasters. We'll be out there, body on the line. Anyway, we'll be right back with something that might not even be a rum. It might even be a single malt. You never know.
Maybe.
Never know.